Max Verstappen is stirring up the Formula One world as we head toward Suzuka. The driver, who has claimed the world title on 4 occasions, is now facing uncertainties at Red Bull because the RB21 model has proven extremely difficult to handle. A release clause in the Dutch driver's contract was revealed by Marco, and the clear warning is that the team has very little time to resolve the issues before Max begins to consider another team as his new home. This raises the question, will the challenges be solved in time, and, above all, what measures can Max take to make the best decision in his career? It is undeniable that Red Bull is in a delicate situation, as the compromised performance of the RB21 has hampered the Austrian team, even with the significant contribution of Verstappen, who made it clear that this year he and his team cannot expect miracle. 2022 and 2023 were seasons largely dominated by Max, and although 2024 was partially affected by McLaren, the Constructors' Championship was lost not only to the base team from Woking, but also to Ferrari. From the very beginning, doubts began to emerge even before the 2025 season started, as it became evident that the Austrian team's development curve was in decline. This indicates that Verstappen does not have the ideal resources to maintain his lead, a situation very different from last year when he did not rely on the fastest car. McLaren emerges as the team to be surpassed on any circuit, and with a remarkable advantage at the start of the Constructors' Championship, the pressure on Red Bull intensifies, both because of the promotion of Yuki Tsunoda and the imminent risk of seeing Verstappen leave the team. Every top-level driver has a release clause in his contract, a subject mentioned in the documentary Drive to Survive by Horner, when Verstappen was in contact with Mercedes, and that was recently reiterated by Helmut Marko. With his 81 years of experience, the veteran Austrian stressed the need for updates so that Max can secure his 5th world title, the ultimate goal, and affirmed that the entire team is working tirelessly toward that objective. Although it is natural for elite drivers to have a release clause in case their performance does not meet expectations, each contract is tailored in its own way. What has further worried Red Bull supporters is the deadline defined by Marko for changes to occur, namely the summer break. Even though the Dutch driver is only 8 points behind Norris in the overall standings, the situation worsens when examining the real expectations regarding the car's performance. Many hopes rest on the updates for the RB21, but since the beginning of the 2024 development war, the team has faced numerous challenges, which makes failure more likely than success. Marko emphasized that the summer break will be the determining period to clarify Max's future, but it is important to remember that although the team is currently in 2nd place, the mere 8-point gap with the leader and the long time until the break indicate that much uncertainty remains. Should Verstappen choose to switch teams, such a move would be a strong indication for me to also reconsider my position. Observing the recent events at Red Bull, it is clear that Max does not approve of the decision to expose Lawson so early in the season, as the driver has not had enough time to prove his worth. 2 races, one with a sprint weekend and another contested in rainy conditions in Australia, are not enough to demonstrate whether he possesses what it takes to join the team. Even having raced on these circuits for the first time, Max remains unsatisfied. And although Marko stated that the best strategy for the pursuit of the 5th championship was to bring in Tsunoda, the Dutchman does not seem to agree with that idea. Delving deeper into the subject, Marko highlighted that, although Max's dissatisfaction is evident, it is essential for the team to have 2 cars ahead, both for the Constructors' Championship and to help Max secure his 5th world title. Curiously, the expectations regarding Yuki Tsunoda this year are quite positive, as the driver did not make mistakes in the first weeks, demonstrated speed, adopted a new management approach, and shows great self-confidence. The major challenge, however, is not restricted only to the difficulty of steering the car's development, but also to the lack of professionals with sufficient experience in this type of project. This is not to undermine the work of the engineers who tirelessly dedicate themselves in the factories, but Helmut Marko confirmed what many feared. Newey's expertise is fundamental to the car's progress, commenting on the importance of the renowned British engineer and his impact on the team's long-term vision to solve the vehicle's issues. Marco stressed that, although Newey is incomparable, the team composed of nearly 1,000 people was built gradually. Despite the RB21 being notoriously difficult to drive, the Red Bull racing car is easier to handle and very fast in a qualifying lap. But in the race, it proves significantly inferior to the Red Bull racing model. This fact raises a crucial question. Which would be the best option for Verstappen in the near future? There are two strong candidates who certainly would not refuse the opportunity: Aston Martin and Mercedes. After the recent moves by Lawrence Stroll regarding the team's ownership, it appears that strengthening his position means that Lance's seat is secure, and if a change occurs, it would be similar to the replacement of Fernando Alonso, who has already declared that he does not plan to continue beyond 2026, unless Aston Martin offers him one more season, something highly unlikely if they know that Max is available for hire. On the other hand, there is Mercedes, a team that emerged from behind and was held in high regard when Verstappen's name was mentioned, especially after the departures from Red Bull last year. Obviously, what Hamilton did with them is a move that will haunt them for a long time, but the reality is that they need to move forward. In theory, Toto Wolff appears to have his two long-term drivers in Russell and Antonelli, the latter representing Mercedes, but it is unclear what Wolff truly feels about the four-time world champion, a constant point of doubt. If the opportunity to sign Verstappen were to arise, it is hard to imagine that such a move would be taken lightly by him. The same conviction was expressed by Zak Brown, head of McLaren, who mentioned the possibility of Verstappen leaving as early as 2026, stating that this decision would be obvious for Max, since he would certainly be out of the Austrian team when the new engine regulations begin to reveal unknown issues related to Red Bull's shortcomings. Zak Brown even commented that he believes Max will leave the team at the end of this year, most likely heading toward Mercedes. Aston Martin was also mentioned, particularly with the arrival of Adrian Newey. But as brilliant as he is, it is imperative to have a complete team around him, a consolidated culture, and that takes time. If I were to bet, I would choose Mercedes since, in the last 10 years, they have secured the championship 7 or 8 times, won 5 races last year, possess admirable stability, and we know that Toto Wolff holds them in high regard, in addition to the belief that the high-performance power units are better prepared for the new engine regulations next year. Furthermore, Russell's contract ends at the end of this season, and Antonelli is under a series of one-year contracts. Analyzing Wolff's comments, it is noticeable that his statements always leave room for various interpretations. He stated that he wishes to keep his drivers for the long term, but made it clear that such a guarantee is not absolute. In internal discussions, he mentioned that it is almost an open secret that they want to retain their drivers for many years, and that not every discussion with the drivers is made public. This highlights that a contract is much more than merely ensuring the driver's presence in the car. It involves conditions that must be discussed in the interest of both the team and the driver, constituting a structured process. Given all these points, do you think Verstappen will leave Red Bull if the car's development does not meet his standards? And, more importantly, which team do you believe would be the ideal option for the 4-time world champion?